Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we're decoding how leaders, founders, and execs are working smarter using AI systems and automation. Before we jump into today's episode, as always, we're here at Future Proof and Deploy. We build AI custom solutions. If you want to just understand how it can move the needle for your business, book a free 30-minute call with us. There'll be links in every one of our episodes in the show notes. Let's get to today's episode. I'm really excited to talk to Toby Unwin from Lawyers by WinRate and Premonition Analytics. Toby, thank you for joining us and spending some time with us. I'm excited to talk about the legal field.
Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure.
You always, I definitely will, right? So let's jump right in, right? So let's talk about your background and leading up to you starting some of these companies and what got you into this.
Once upon a time, I got sued, and it really pissed me off.
Already, this is my favorite backstory ever because it's fan.
Yeah. There was one lawyer in particular I'd hired who was supposed to be like the best in town, on all the top lawyer lists, which I now know are bullshit, basically advertised and recommended by friends. If you hire a lawyer because your friends recommend them, that's not a good idea. Recommended by a law firm, that's on the advisory board of. Everything that you normally think, yes, this is great, turned out to be horrible lawyer. Not only didn't do what I said, purposely did things against that because it would have meant she'd made a lot less billing.
Right.
Long story short, me over and family over and left us $7 million worse off than we were before. Of course, this is the only lawyer that I've ever filed a bar complaint against. Yeah. And of course, the bar says the guild cycle does absolutely nothing.
Right. They're just a money grab, right? Yeah.
Yeah, protect their members against any kind of complaints.
Right.
I think law is the only profession that gets to self-regulate. Anyways, long story short, it's horrible. And I used to think that I was good at picking lawyers, but no, I have no idea. Most professional lawyers, they don't know either. And after much pacing around at night with a bottle of wine and a notepad, I kind of realized it's a data problem.
100%.
I can get court data and I can query it. I can find out who wins which case type in front of which judge. Sounds like
very logical thinking, yes.
And actually quite a few people came out with similar ideas at the time. Unfortunately, having the idea of doing it very difficult things.
Oh, yeah.
And found out that data is real medicine. You would think it was a government operation.
Yeah.
It's in thousands of different formats and thousands of different places. The clerks whose job it is to, curators and give it out to you.
Yeah.
No, they won't do that because they think that it's theirs.
Right.
It was a real mess, which eventually I solved by just scraping courts. We got really good at scraping court websites and wound up with this company called Premonition, which is now the world's largest litigation database. It's bigger than LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, and Bloomberg combined.
Wow. Some of my old clients. It's crazy.
We know which lawyers win before which judges, which we like to call a very, very unfair advantage in litigation.
Yeah. But listen, if you're a consumer of this, like that's exactly what you want to know.
Yeah. And there's, till very recently, there's been nothing consumers can do to even get close to accessing any of this data.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, when we talked about it, I mean, I'd imagine, right, by you doing this, one, you're helping everybody out there by, saying, hey, look, here's who, you're going to hire somebody, you're going to spend the money. Here's where here are the people that you need to go after. I would imagine there's a lot of lawyers beating your door down to get their name up on that list. But to your credit, it's not like TripAdvisor where you can just, again, nothing against TripAdvisor, but you can buy your way to the, to the top 3 of that, right? And so this is based on data.
Yeah, for pretty much all of the lawyer awards, you can buy away on the list, even the ones that you can't, they won't let you on the list unless you pay. So you have to pay some kind of listing fee.
Right.
And going many years ago, with a group of lawyers on what was then Twitter, and I beat them in their arguments. And one of them came to me and apologized and said, "Please don't dig my numbers." And so, well, apology accepted, but I actually could not dig your numbers.
If you wanted to, right? Because that's not how you do it. Right.
Yes, I've undergraduate. So even if I really wanted to slow down, I couldn't. Similarly, lawyers come to us and say, "How much do I have to pay to get on your?" I was like, "No, it doesn't work like that. You can't pay."
Win your cases.
Yeah, you've got to go to court, win a bunch of cases, preferably in front of the same judges for the same case type, and then the system will pick you up and you'll start getting cases. But yeah, you can't.
All right, so I want you to blow everybody away, right? Because people don't know this. So talk about the percentages, right, of lawyers in the U.S. Well, or I guess it's globally, right?
Yeah. So the US is 95% of the world's litigation filed by just 5% of the world's population.
Wow.
Like in the UK, we deal with just under 4,000 high court cases a year. And in America, we deal with 41,000 cases every day.
Every day?
Every day, yeah.
Holy crap.
While we've been talking, there's been a new lawsuit filed every 6 seconds.
Wow. And how many in the UK? 4K, and how long? A year?
Yeah. That's how sick it is. The US is the only country in the world that doesn't have a loser pays rule. So if I said, "Hey, Brent, don't like your show," and I'm suing you, right? Now, we go to court, we have a lawsuit, you win because it's a stupid, frivolous case.
Yeah.
But in every other country in the world, I would have to pay your lawyer's fees. But in America, I don't. So can you imagine if there was a casino where you could go and you gamble all day long?
Mm-hmm.
If you lost, you're only out in time, don't owe any money. Well, you and I wouldn't be doing this podcast. We'd be at that casino gambling like degenerates.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That's what the court systems are like for plaintiffs in America. And then, America is run by lawyers for lawyers, and, their defense counsel. It's terrible, all the stuff that the plaintiff lawyers do. And I'm like, yeah, but they're like the business generation. The defense bar wouldn't exist without the plaintiff bar.
Right.
So no one's going to do anything about it at any time soon. So it is what it is. If you're being forced to play, then you want to have this inside edge and find out which lawyers are winning before my judge. There's a saying in America that a good lawyer knows the law, but a great lawyer knows the judge.
Yeah.
It's a relationship business, even though really it should be.
Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. So tell me about, right? So obviously Lawyers by WinRate is, Premonition's where all the data, right? That's your data and analytics company. But Lawyers by WinRate is for the consumer side. So what's your vision for this company going forward?
Well, Premonition is the data platform, and we work on making it better all the time. Eventually, we would like to be the pipes of how cases are booked. Not only would we find the best lawyer for the case, but we'll also get in touch with them, book them, place the case as well, which is still a very kind of broken thing in law. Like, if you call up a bunch of lawyers' offices, most of them probably won't call you back.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. So we're kind of building that out and testing that out on the consumer side. And for consumers, the good news is you finally get to access some of this software information that until now you had to be a billionaire or a major corporate to access. So the lawyer's not necessarily free, but finding the right lawyer and getting your case placed is.
Wow. That's just amazing. Just spending this time with you, I'm already kind of blown away. I did not know these stats. I didn't know how a lot of this worked. And it's funny, I own a data company. One of my other companies is a data company, so we have so much data, but I've never dug into legal this way. And understanding what you're talking about, Toby, is fascinating. All right. Talk to me about how the emerging tech is changing the landscape of the legal industry in general. Like, what are you seeing? Because again, you have a bird's eye view and you have all the data. So you're kind of in a very unique position to be able to see what's coming and how things are reshaping.
There's actually quite a lot of parts to that. So feel free to come and ask the question in different ways as I
Yeah. Yep.
Many years ago, I wrote an article called "Why is Legal Technology So Bad?" which went viral and made me the number one writer in legal tech on the planet. And then one of the things I'd kind of talk about is lawyers actually, they really don't like technology. And that's not just, there's some elderly judge that barely knows how to use his iPhone. In law, most legal work is still done on an hourly rate. So the longer the lawyer takes to do it, the more money
they get paid.
Now, if you to lawyers, they're like, no, that's not true. Most of our work is fixed fee or, alternate fee, blah, blah, blah. But
I've had a zillion lawyers. That's never been my experience. Like, no one's ever given me flat fee. It's always what you said, right? Yeah.
They'll do flat fee for some, like immigration work or things that are a real estate closing.
But drafting an NDA or something like that, I can see that. But yeah.
But for litigation work, no. Then people are like, oh no, Toby, this is wrong, and you're lying, and this isn't true. Well, actually, I have more access via resellers to more legal billing data than everybody else. And you see flat fees and alternative fee arrangements in lawyers' marketing, but don't see it in their invoices.
Right.
There's a standard kind of scam where you get sued, you have a lawsuit, and you go to the lawyer and you're like, how much is this going to cost me? And they go, oh, it's nothing, it's very simple, probably like 25,000. They know full well they're never going to do that for 25,000.
Right. Yeah, right.
They know if they tell you the truth that you won't sign up and you'll go to the lawyer down the street who will lie to them.
Right.
So you come in and they're like, here's 25,000 and you sign a contract and all this kind of stuff. After about a month, they've chewed through most of that. And then they say that you misrepresented to them about how complicated the case was.
Right.
Yeah. Not their fault. You lied to them. And actually now it's going to be 50,000. But you don't want to change lawyers at that point because then you're going to have to pay the next lawyer to get up to speed. So you're like, all right, 50,000. But
right,
actually,
you grin and bear it.
Lying about that too, it is actually going to run about 100K. So, this is just one of the many reasons why people hate lawyers. And so much of it is because there's no transparency and the lawyers' incentives are not aligned with yours.
Yep.
So, for example, we work with some litigation funding companies and they'll say, okay, we'll provide $10 million for legal fees for this case. If a lawyer knows that, they'll chew up the whole 10 million, which means this is going to run for years. So the smart funders now are putting like acceleration clauses in that say, if you settle the case quicker, we'll pay you a substantial bonus.
More performance based, right? Yeah, which actually is smarter.
Yeah, I mean, if like the plaintiff lawyers for things like personal injury, it's fairly well aligned. The more money I get you, the faster. It's better for all of us. But on the defense side, you're paying someone to solve the problem, but you're incentivizing them to not solve the problem and to drag it out as long as possible.
Right. So I get that they don't want tech for all the reasons you just talked about it. But yet there's no stopping AI. How do you see the impact to this industry, right? Is it just on the low hanging fruit stuff, or is it for litigation? Is it in the research and the paralegal work? Where's the biggest impact?
Well, eventually it's going to change everything. And of course, if you're like a particular major law firm and you say, no, we don't like tech and we don't want anything to do with tech, then very soon you will have no clients whatsoever. So like most things, you need to lie. So a couple of years ago, you noticed that every major law firm is putting out, first one to put out a press release that says, we are starting to use AI. And then the next one will come out and put out a press release saying, we use AI for everything. And then the next, we use AI for using AI. and then AI on top of that. And they all kind of like had this big race as to who could send out the most press releases. And we would get these calls in, like sometimes several a day. Oh, can we have a partnership with you? And the idea was basically they send out a press release that has our logo on it. We both get press coverage, but then they won't actually do anything about it.
Right.
But I'm like, no, we're not interested in that.
Right.
We're all 50. Okay, but we're the tech one. So
Right.
we don't sell to law firms. We sell to people that hire law firms.
Right. Right. We're not aligned.
And then after several months of this press release competition as to who could send out a press release that mentions AI the most times, some lawyer actually does use AI for law. So, hey, draft me up a motion to dismiss for this case type, submit, right? Spits out a very nice looking motion. And problem is, many of these cases is cited, it just makes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right.
So it had hallucinations. Okay.
Exactly. Hallucination was a lot of time, no one can read it anyway, at least it did.
Yeah.
And you probably could get away with it. But it just happened to go in front of a judge who read it and was like, I'm not familiar with that. And you look at it. No, that case doesn't exist. And neither do 4 of these other ones that you cited. And they find the guy like $5,000, something like that. But then it puts all these major law firms in a bit of a quandary.
Right.
Either, if you were using AI that much and AI hallucinates, well, then you've just committed malpractice like thousands of times.
Right.
Right? Or you weren't actually using AI at all. Or you haven't committed malpractice 5,000 times, but that was because you weren't using AI. So therefore, you just told a whole bunch of lies to get a bunch of business. So which is right? Did you lie about the case, or did you lie about the getting rid of how you work your office? Which obviously they can't have it both ways. So that's why they just went generally silent for a while because they just didn't know what to do. This, I personally think that hallucinations will not. It'll be like, oh, that's in the early days of AI.
Right. It's going to get better, more accurate.
Yeah, we have some tech that'll go and pull out citations and precedents out of documents and then go and check to see how often, not only how often they've been cited, but what happens after they were cited, which other legal research systems were tech. By the way, we only use that on a kind of consulting side because we're not actually all that interested in the law itself. We're interested in people in the law and their relations. So that's happening. It will eventually make most things in law more efficient, but the incentives are still not there. And people talk about, the good law firms, and quote unquote good law firm is a law firm with a high PPP, profits per pound. If you put like an economist hat on and you stood back and go, okay, so actually you're saying that the most expensive, least efficient law firms are the best, which doesn't really make sense.
Right. It makes zero sense, right? Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, we look at law firms from a premonition point of view, and, actually the big law firms, a big law firm guy coming up against a small one, they have an edge. They're 6.98% more likely to win, but you pay 50% more for the brand. And then there's another crazy stat behind that one. If I said to you, Brent, for the rest of the time, you could either pick big law or small law, and you want to win, which is it? Now, I just said the big law guy is better, so you probably go with big law. But actually, 92.3% of wins come from small and mid-sized firms.
Wow.
The reason for that, even though they're not as good, is because big law is actually not big enough. Only 3% of lawyers work for big law. So the odds of you finding a big law lawyer that is good
are small. Yes. All right. Now I get it. Right. Again, this is what data teaches you. Right?
Exactly. But if you are a general counsel for most companies, they would never hire someone from a small law firm, because if they wind up losing the case and the CEO goes, why did you hire Fred? Or why didn't you hire Dewey, Scrum and Howell? They're like Amlaw 10 or whatever. You hire a big firm and you've got to see what. It's starting to change now because people are like, okay, I actually want to win. I want to know what their win rate is in the small number of cases where they are losing, or they have a piece of paper that says, I pick the best lawyer. So,
Yeah. Making data-driven decisions. Imagine that. Right?
yeah. It's taken law a very, very, very long time because so many people in it, particularly at like the general counsel level, you get your job by persuading someone that you know a lot about this. People say, I don't need, like when we first started with premonition, people said, we don't need that. I don't need it because I know who the best lawyers are. Okay, there's 1.36 million lawyers in America.
Right.
You're telling me you know all of them. Judge and case type interactions. That cannot possibly be true.
And the 1.63, is that in the US or is that worldwide?
Yeah, no, it's 1.36 million in America. And then, you've got things to tell, only like 1 in 3 lawyers actually go to court. And lots of these people that, like if you said most of my family's been wiped out in some massive truck trailer thing, you represent me, most lawyers are not going to go, well, you actually haven't been to court for years. They'll be like, oh, yes, sign here, because it's going to be a monstrous payday. Then you're stuck with someone that actually isn't any good.
Yeah. How do you know how many, off the top of your head, do you know how many lawyers there are in the UK?
I don't. It would be somewhere in the tens of thousands.
Yeah. I was going to say, just based on the number of cases, it has to be,
And that's also split out. You have 2 types of lawyers. You have the solicitors that are allowed to solicit business, but they're in general not allowed to go to court. And then you have barristers, and those are the guys with the wigs, like insanely expensive. You talk about like $8,000 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it's actually, we did the largest ever UK law analysis in history. And we found that the major law firms that hire the expensive guys with the wigs, actually they had a negative correlation in win rate. So the guys the most were less likely to win.
That's crazy.
The reason for that is the number one reason that a barrister doesn't get rehired is because they didn't get on with the person that was hiring them. Which makes a lot of sense because who wants to do business with artists? You want to do business with your friends.
Right.
But then if you're hiring your friends and you don't keep score, and when these guys say, you can't blame Charles because it's tough case, tough charge, you can't blame him at all. Then it just degenerates into a high maintenance network.
That is crazy. It actually makes sense. Yeah. But so, when you say it that way, yeah.
A law firm's choice of barristers is 37% negatively correlated. And general counsel's choice of law firms is 18% negatively correlated. They're better off just tossing darts at the wall.
I love that. Yeah. But hey, you know what the fascinating thing about all the stuff that you're talking about though is how much data can tell you when you actually pull it together.
Yeah.
And now it's at your fingertips, and the usage and the decision making you can do from it is phenomenal. And what you've unearthed since you've been doing this is exactly how the industry works and exactly how you can get at least probabilistically give yourself the best chance to hire the right lawyer and get the best outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And we find a lot of every time we run a report, we discover secrets, things that no one else knows. Relationships, like there was this guy he was in Reno, and he just won every single case before a particular judge. And he was like worked in some strip mall on the edge of town. And all of his cases would appear just with this one judge. And you're not supposed to legally be able to do that.
Right. I was going to say, that's kind of fishy, right?
Yeah. Make sure this case goes in front of Bob. I always appear in front of Bob. Every time I'm in front of Bob, I always win. And he was just an insurance company. He wasn't an insurance defense lawyer at all. He specialized in criminal defense for the LGBTQIA plus community. So God knows how he gets these cases.
Right.
How he can always ensure he gets this judge.
Same judge.
And they're always wrong. And we kind of like said it to the client, like, look, I found this guy. I mean, he's kind of not qualified, but look at his win rate. It's insane.
Yeah. If you get in front of this judge, right? Yeah, he's got to 100% or 95% chance to win. That's a pretty good thing.
27 cases with 100% win rate in 3 years.
Wow.
Instead of like, look, why don't you hire one of these expert guys? I mean, hire this chap to be second chair.
Right. Co-counsel. Right. Absolutely.
And they're like, okay. We called it back like a month later, like, because the other side just would not settle. So how's that case going? So it's done. We settled it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I love it. Like you're outcome driven for
yeah. Well, for in this case, our client.
Right.
But yeah, if you put the right people in charge of something, things are difficult when the wrong people are working.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing, Toby. It really is amazing. My God, I'm definitely going to have you back because I want to get into the data in a different way with you, and I'll definitely follow up you on the side to talk through it because I just think it's fascinating. Again, we own a data company, but we don't ever go deep in a single vertical like this. And the amount of things that you can do with this it's amazing to me. And once we add AI to be able to correlate things like you're talking about, and once it gets more accurate, the amount of smarter data-driven decisions you're going to be able to make are just insane.
Yeah, at the moment, our stuff is, everyone says that AI is AI for everything, and they use AI to describe many times things which are not AI. 90+% of our stuff is just simple algorithm-based things.
Right, machine learning, right? Yeah.
Oh, no, not even that. Just, like a SQL query. Who is with the highest win count for this? We do use AI, but we tend to use it for fairly minor cases. Like we added photos to our reports. So, you have to scrape the web and, then you wind up with a photo of a dog where a judge is supposed to be. So it's like, okay, is this a person? Stuff like that, which an algorithm can't tell you, but AI can. We started adding contact details and bios because these lawyers, they change company like all the time.
Yeah. We had one on that was working for us. He left right in the middle of our case. And I'm like, yeah, just left the firm. It's like, hey, we're just going to throw you over to this Dave over here, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm like,
people are like, well, you can go to the bar, and the bar always knows who they are. It's like, no, very often they'll go several cases before they bother telling the bar you have a wrong phone number.
Right. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
That go through every law firm website every month.
Yeah.
Try and keep us as much up to speed as we can. So we use AI for stuff like that, but in general, it's not really necessary. And also, our clients like to know, how did you arrive at this information?
Right. That's what I've noticed you're really good at that, is saying, and here's why.
Yeah. If you take these numbers and you add them up, it'll be that. Whereas, if it's AI, it's like, here's what it says, and you kind of got to trust us.
Right.
Trust me, doesn't get very far.
No, I totally get it. All right. Well, I gotta ask you one last question. Right. And this is the selfish question: is if you could use AI to fix one thing in your business, what would it be?
An interesting question, because we have many things that we are solving with technology. I guess our biggest bottleneck right now is the placing of cases with lawyers. So we've done in law school. I went to 5 law schools at the same time. They didn't spend a single hour teaching me stuff like sales and marketing or even how to run a business. Just telling them something like, at the end of the day, make sure that all your clients' calls get returned. Word fix most legal practices. That's the thing.
It's such an easy fix with AI. That one's an easy fix.
But they don't do it. I'll talk to groups of like 200-300 lawyers and say, what is the number one reason why you would have not got one of our cases? And I'm maybe not familiar with the certain type of notice because you didn't answer your phone call. That's what.
Yeah. 100%. Right.
Very, very simple stuff which they don't do. But we also found, for example, the lawyers, they're like kind of Jekyll and Hyde. You speak to one that goes with a whole bunch of cases, and they're like exactly tailored for the specialty that you're good at. In fact, we like to try and get it where not only is the specialty that you're good at, but we know that you have a good relationship with the judge. And this is wonderful. I love it. And I'm your best mate, and send all of those to me. But if you then the next week have a case for them, and it happens that they're behind on a court deadline, not only do they not answer their phone, but their assistant won't answer their phone, and neither does the main switchboard. And if you get through to them, they're just pulling their hair out trying to respond to a deadline. And they're like, who are you? I didn't know you. Just piss off and never call me again. And it's really challenging. So we had like a couple of years of that before we started to say, okay, the tech solution is, look, give me a calendar link and we'll just book the clients for you. But they don't do that because A, they're not familiar with tech, and B, they're like, oh, my calendar link is private and I never think of putting that up on the website. So, we have to figure out how we could do this, because when clients, the sweet spot for clients to look for lawyers is actually when the law offices are closed.
The off hours.
You can book them like that. So it took us a while to figure out how we could book when the offices were closed. It's
Absolutely.
Problems around that size. I guess if I was going to summarize it now that we're here, it would be just dealing with humans.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that this is, yes. And basically backfilling for humans. So as we call them on this, the digital coworker. Yeah.
We've got these clients that are very stressed, that know very little about the legal field, and most of what they know about lawyers is what they saw on TV, which is complete nonsense. And so they often have very unreasonable expectations. This could be solved in half an hour.
Absolutely.
And then you've got the lawyers that really know nothing about how to run a business or how to deal with clients, and they'll often spend their time issue spotting a client's case. As I say, at least when you go to a dentist, it's not a pleasant experience, but you come out better than when you went in. But when you go and see a lawyer, very often they're like, okay, actually you thought you had one problem, but I found another 17. The clients don't want to hear that.
I love it. Well, unfortunately, we're at our time, but Toby, I'm telling you, I'm going to have you back because I want to get into some of the other stuff that we were talking before we jumped on the podcast we never got to. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll have you back in a month or so, and we'll do episode number 2. I would love it. Yeah. Guys, thank you. Well, again, Toby, tell everybody how to go find lawyers by WinRate.
The main site, if you're into court data, is premonition.ai, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we'll have all the links below. Yep.
The lawyers by WinRate, which is not it, will get you to the best lawyer for your case type and judge. Hopefully you have no use of them ever, but if you do, lawyers by WinRate.
Love it. And Toby, thank you for spending time with us, for sharing your insights. I learned more about the legal industry, things I thought I knew, but didn't know. So hopefully everybody watching this is going to learn a lot and visit one of Toby's companies, because I wish I had this before we started our last case. So thank you. I appreciate it. All right, guys, that ends this episode of Future Proof. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.